Please do not come in, go away. Beautiful black twins block CEO dad from entering mom's hospital room after divorce for 5 years. Outside room 447, a man stands frozen, his hand trembling as it reaches toward the door handle. He is tall, well over 6 feet, wearing a suit that probably costs more than most people's monthly rent. But right now, none of that matters, because blocking his path are 2 small bodies, 2 5-year-old children with his eyes, his chin, his mouth. Their small frames radiate a protective fury that would be almost comical if it weren't so devastating. The little girl speaks first. Her voice is clear, dignified, carrying a weight no 5-year-old should have to bear. Please do not come in. The boy stands beside her, his small hands balled into fists at his sides, his face set in an expression of determination. Go away. The man, Garrett Sullivan, billionaire CEO, master of boardrooms and hostile takeovers, feels his knees nearly buckle. He looks down at these children, his children he only learned existed 72 hours ago, and his voice breaks when he speaks. Kennedy, Carter, I need to see your mother. The little girl, Kennedy, crosses her arms over her purple dress. Her natural hair is pulled into 2 perfect puffs on either side of her head. No, you made mommy cry before. You can't make her cry again. Carter takes a half step forward, protecting his sister even as she protects their mother. She's sick because of you. The doctor said stress. Your stress. Have you ever had to face the person who broke your heart when you were at your most vulnerable? Have you ever stood between someone you love and the person who destroyed them? What would you do if your 5-year-old children had to be the warriors you couldn't be? This is the story of a man who threw away his family because they weren't good enough for his world. A woman who built an empire from the ashes of her broken heart. And 2 beautiful black children who learned to guard their mother's wounded soul like soldiers. It's about prejudice and pride, about the crushing weight of other people's expectations, about what happens when the color of your skin matters more to your spouse than the content of your character. But here's the twist. What happens when the person who destroyed you becomes the only one who understands you? When the man who called you unsuitable spends 5 years learning why he was the unsuitable one all along? Can some broken things be rebuilt into something even stronger than before? Or are their wounds too deep to heal? Stay with me to find out if love can survive betrayal, if forgiveness can be earned, and whether 2 tiny 5-year-olds blocking a hospital door might be the beginning of the most unexpected second chance you've ever heard. If you believe people can change, if you believe in the power of redemption, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me, would you give someone like this another chance, or is 5 years too late for sorry? And subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips, because this story is about to take you on an emotional journey you won't forget. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. Now let me tell you how we got here. Let me tell you about the day a marriage died and the day it tried to rise from the grave. Garrett stares at his children, these fierce, beautiful, brilliant children who have every reason to hate him. Behind them, through the small window in the door, he can see a figure in the hospital bed. Imani. Even from here, even through glass and distance and 5 years of silence, she takes his breath away. A woman's voice cuts through the moment. Garrett turns to see an older black woman approaching. She carries herself with the kind of dignity that comes from a lifetime of surviving things that should have broken her. This is Rose Harper, Imani's mother, and the look she gives Garrett could freeze fire. Mr. Sullivan, Rose says, her voice cold enough to frost the windows. I assume you're the reason my daughter's heart rate has been spiking for the past 20 minutes. Mrs. Harper, Garrett's voice is barely above a whisper. I just need to see her, to talk to her, to explain. Explain what exactly? Rose moves to stand beside her grandchildren, one hand on each small shoulder. How you threw my daughter away like garbage. How you called her unsuitable for your precious family. How you moved on to someone more acceptable before the divorce papers were even dry. Kennedy looks up at her grandmother. Grandma Rose, is he really our daddy? Biologically speaking, yes, baby. Rose's eyes never leave Garrett's face. But being a father takes more than DNA. It takes showing up. And this man hasn't shown up for 5 years. I didn't know. Garrett feels tears threatening. I didn't know about them. She never told me. And why do you think that is? Rose's voice cuts like a blade. Why do you think a woman who was desperate for children during your marriage would hide a pregnancy after your divorce? Could it be because you'd already told her she was worthless? That she didn't fit your world? That she embarrassed your legacy? Carter tugs on his grandmother's sleeve. What does unsuitable mean? It means someone thinks you're not good enough for them, Rose explains, her voice gentling for the child. It means someone decides that where you come from matters more than who you are. But Mommy is the best person in the whole world, Kennedy protests. Yes, she is. And don't you ever forget it. Rose looks back at Garrett. You have 5 minutes, Mr. Sullivan. 5 minutes to say whatever you came to say. And if you upset my daughter, if you make her heart rate spike or her blood pressure rise, I will personally remove you from this hospital and from this city. We clear? Garrett nods, unable to speak around the lump in his throat. Rose kneels down to the twins' level. Babies, come with Grandma. Let's go get some ice cream from the cafeteria and let Mommy talk to this man. But Grandma, what if he makes her cry? Kennedy's eyes are already wet with worried tears. Then we'll come back and make him leave. But your mama is the strongest woman I know. She survived him once. She'll survive him again. As Rose leads the reluctant children away, Kennedy looks back over her shoulder. If you hurt our Mommy, we won't let you see her again. Ever. I understand, Garrett manages. And Kennedy? Carter? I'm so sorry. For everything. But they're already disappearing around the corner, and Garrett is left standing alone outside. A hospital room, gathering courage to face the woman he destroyed 5 years ago. Inside the room, Imani Harper lies in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines that monitor the heart she literally worked to breaking. At 35, she is a senior partner at one of Chicago's most prestigious consulting firms. She has an MBA from a top school. She has built a life of purpose and achievement. She has raised 2 incredible children completely alone. She has also just suffered a stress-induced heart attack that nearly killed her. The irony is not lost on her. She spent 5 years proving she was more than good enough, working herself into the ground to show everyone who'd ever doubted her that they were wrong. And in doing so, she almost left her children motherless. Dr. Amara Okonkwo, her cardiologist and friend, had been blunt. Your body shut down because you've been running on determination and rage for 5 years. You can't keep doing this, Imani. You can't support your children if you're dead. Now, watching Garrett Sullivan's shadow through the frosted glass of her door, Imani feels her heart monitor spike. The beeping accelerates. Her palms sweat. Her chest tightens with something that might be anxiety, or might be the echo of old feelings she thought she'd buried. The door opens, and there he is. Garrett looks older. The past 5 years have carved lines around his eyes and mouth. His dark hair is shot through with silver at the temples. He's still handsome, still commanding, still carrying himself with the unconscious confidence of old money and older privilege. But there's something different, too. Something haunted in his gray eyes. Something broken in the way he stands in her doorway like he's not sure he has the right to enter. Imani. Her name on his lips sounds like a prayer and an apology all at once. Dr. Washington, Imani corrects coldly, though she technically left that title back in California before the divorce. Her current work doesn't require the formality, but right now she needs the distance. Mr. Sullivan, how did you find me? Garrett closes the door gently behind him. Your firm announced you'd taken medical leave. I made some calls, found out you were hospitalized, and then I found out about Kennedy and Carter. Imani's fingers grip the thin hospital blanket. What about them? They're mine. Garrett's voice cracks. They're my children, our children. And you never told me. No, I didn't. Imani's voice is steel wrapped in ice. And before you start on whatever righteous anger you're feeling, let me remind you that the last time we spoke you told me I was unsuitable for your world. That I embarrassed you, that I could never give you what you needed. So, forgive me if I didn't think you'd be interested in children carried by defective goods. Garrett flinches like she slapped him. I never called you defective. You called me everything but. Imani feels the old hurt rising like bile. You said I didn't fit, that I couldn't give you heirs, that Vanessa Carmichael would have been the better choice. And then, 3 weeks after our divorce was finalized, I found out I was pregnant with twins. Tell me, Garrett, what exactly was I supposed to do with that information? You should have told me. His hands clench at his sides. I had a right to know. You had a right when you were my husband, and we were trying to build a family together. Imani's voice rises, and she sees her heart monitor spike on the screen. You lost that right when you decided my worth as a person was tied to my reproductive system and my social pedigree. You lost that right when you chose your mother's approval over our marriage vows. I was wrong. Garrett moves closer to the bed. Imani, I was wrong about everything. Yes, you were. But being wrong doesn't give you retroactive parental rights. They stare at each other across the space of the hospital room. 5 years of silence. 5 years of separate lives. 5 years of hurt and anger and grief. Garrett's voice, when he speaks again, is barely audible. What are they like? Despite herself, despite everything, Imani feels her expression soften. Kennedy is an artist. She sees the world in colors and emotions. She's fierce and protective, and so talented it sometimes takes my breath away. She has your stubbornness and your intensity, but she uses it to create instead of control. And Carter? Carter has your mind. He's analytical, brilliant, reading at a third-grade level already. He wants to start a business. At 5. He's the protector, the leader, the one who thinks 10 steps ahead. Imani's voice fills with pride despite the circumstances. They're extraordinary, Garrett. They're kind and smart and brave, and they've never needed you because I made sure they had everything they needed. But they needed their father. Garrett's voice breaks completely now. They needed me, and I wasn't there because I was too stupid to see what was right in front of me 5 years ago. They needed a father who would love them and their mother unconditionally. What they got was a sperm donor who showed up 5 years too late. Imani wipes at her eyes angrily. Why are you here, Garrett? Really? Is it guilt? Fear of mortality? Some midlife crisis where you suddenly want to play daddy? It's all of that. Garrett sinks into the chair beside her bed. It's guilt and fear and the crushing weight of realizing I destroyed the only real thing I ever had. It's seeing those 2 beautiful children and knowing I've missed 5 years of their lives. It's looking at you and remembering that I had someone who loved me for who I was, not what I represented, and I threw it away because I was a coward. The machines beep steadily. Somewhere down the hall, someone pages a doctor. The world keeps turning while these 2 people sit in the wreckage of what they used to be. I loved you, Imani whispers. I loved you so much it felt like dying when you left. I know. And I loved you too. I just loved my family's approval more. I loved my position and my status and my comfort more. I was weak and selfish, and I let the people who raised me convince me that love wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for you, Imani corrects. It was everything for me. Before Garrett can respond, the door opens. A nurse enters, takes one look at the heart monitor, and frowns. Mrs. Harper, your vitals are elevated. Is everything all right? Yes, Imani says quickly. We're just having a difficult conversation. The nurse looks between them, clearly skeptical. Well, your doctor wants you to avoid stress, so maybe difficult conversations can wait until you're stronger. After the nurse leaves with a warning look at Garrett, silence falls again. I want to know them, Garrett says quietly. I know I have no right. I know I've already gotten more than I deserve just by seeing them for those few minutes in the hallway. But, Imani, please, let me be part of their lives. Let me try to be the father they deserve. And what about when you get tired of trying? Imani's voice is sharp with fear disguised as anger. What about when your family pressures you, or when someone points out that your children don't fit? The Sullivan image? What happens when this guilt wears off, and you remember all the reasons you divorced me in the first place? That won't happen. You can't promise that. You promised to love me forever. You promised in sickness and in health. You promised a lot of things, Garrett, and you broke every single one. Garrett has no answer for that. How can he? She's right. I need time, Imani finally says. Time to heal physically. Time to think about what's best for Kennedy and Carter. Time to figure out if I can trust you not to hurt them the way you hurt me. I'll wait. Garrett stands, understanding he's being dismissed. I'll wait as long as it takes. And if the answer is no, if I decide you can't be part of our lives, then I'll accept it. Garrett moves toward the door, then pauses. Because what you want, what you need, what's best for our children, that matters more than what I want. I should have learned that lesson 5 years ago. After he leaves, Imani lies in the hospital bed and lets herself cry. For the girl she used to be, the one who believed love conquered all. For the marriage that died in cruelty and cold words. For the children who grew up not knowing their father because she was too hurt and too proud to reach out. Most of all, she cries because part of her, the part that never stopped, loving the man Garrett used to be, wants to believe he's really changed. But wanting something and trusting it are 2 very different things. Let me take you back. Let me show you how we got here. Let me tell you about the love that was supposed to last forever and the day it shattered into a million pieces. 7 years ago, Garrett Sullivan walked into a charity gala at the Four Seasons in downtown Chicago. He was 30 years old, newly promoted to CEO of Sullivan Global Enterprises, and already exhausted by the weight of family expectations. His mother, Barbara Sullivan, had spent the entire car ride lecturing him about suitable matches. Vanessa Carmichael would be here tonight. So would the Westbrook daughters. So would half a dozen other women from appropriate families with appropriate backgrounds. Garrett had stopped listening halfway through. This was his life, had always been his life. Obligations and appearances, suitable and appropriate. The right schools, the right clubs, the right marriages to the right people. He was bored to death of all of it. Then he saw her. Imani Harper stood near the silent auction tables, reviewing items on a clipboard. She wore a simple black dress that somehow made every other woman in the room look overdressed. Her natural hair was styled in an elegant updo. She had the kind of beauty that didn't require effort or announcement. She simply was, and everything around her faded into background noise. Garrett found himself walking toward her without conscious decision. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you enjoying the auction?" Imani looked up, and Garrett felt his breath catch. Her eyes were the warmest brown he'd ever seen, intelligent and kind. "I'm actually working it. I'm the consultant the foundation hired to maximize donations and streamline the bidding process." A consultant. Garrett smiled. "So, you're the reason I got 17 reminder emails about tonight." "Guilty." Imani smiled back, and something in Garrett's chest shifted. "I'm Imani Harper with Strategic Solutions Group." "And you are?" "Garrett Sullivan. I run Sullivan Global Enterprises." "Oh." Imani's expression shifted slightly. "So, you're the keynote speaker I've been emailing." The 17 emails suddenly made sense. "Yes, sorry for the delayed responses. I'm not great with email." Clearly. But Imani's tone was teasing, not critical. "Well, Mr. Sullivan, since you're here and you're important, let me show you which. Auction items will make you look generous without actually costing you very much." Garrett laughed, genuinely delighted. "You're very honest for a consultant. Honesty is efficient. Lying takes too much energy and follow-up." Imani gestured to the auction tables. "Come on. I'll educate you on the art of strategic philanthropy." They spent the next hour walking through the gala. Imani explained the psychology of charity auctions, the importance of visible leadership donations, the way to maximize impact while managing cost. But they also talked about other things: her work, his company, her childhood on the South Side, his suffocating family expectations. By the time Garrett had to give his keynote speech, he was halfway in love. After the gala ended, he found Imani packing up her materials. "Can I take you to dinner?" She looked at him with surprise. "Don't you have some after-party to attend?" "Probably, but I'd rather have dinner with you." Imani studied him for a long moment. "Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to be very direct. I'm a black woman from a working-class family. My father drives a bus for the CTA. My mother spent 20 years cleaning houses before she could retire. I put myself through college and grad school. I don't come from your world, and I'm not interested in being someone's rebellion or their walk on the wild side." Garrett felt something fierce and protective rise in his chest. "I'm not interested in rebellion. I'm interested in having dinner with the most interesting person I've met in years. Your background doesn't matter to me. It will matter to your family, maybe, probably. But I'm 30 years old and I'm tired of letting my family choose my life for me." Garrett held out his hand. "Dinner. Just dinner. If you hate me by dessert, you never have to see me again." Imani took his hand. "One dinner, but I'm ordering the expensive wine. Order the whole bottle. Order 2. That first dinner lasted 4 hours. It turned into coffee the next morning, which turned into dinner again that weekend, which turned into Garrett pursuing Imani with single-minded focus while she remained skeptical and careful. "You're going to wake up one day and realize this doesn't work," she told him after their 5th date. "You're going to introduce me to your family and see their disappointment and remember that there are easier options." "There are no better options," Garrett argued. "Imani, you're brilliant and beautiful, and you make me want to be better than I am. That's not common. That's not something I'm willing to walk away from." 6 months later, he proposed at Promontory Point with the sunrise painting Lake Michigan in shades of pink and gold. Imani said yes, but with conditions. I need you to understand what you're choosing. Your family won't approve. Your social circle will have opinions. There will be people who look at me and see only my skin color or my background. I need to know you're strong enough to weather that. I'm strong enough, Garrett promised. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. Nothing else matters. They were married 3 months later in a beautiful ceremony that Garrett's family attended with visible reluctance. Barbara Sullivan smiled for the cameras but pulled Garrett aside before the reception. I hope you know what you're doing, she said. This girl is lovely, I'm sure, but she's not what this family needs. She's not equipped for our world. She's exactly what I need, Garrett said firmly. And she's about to become part of this family, so I expect you to treat her with respect. Of course, darling. Barbara kissed his cheek. I always want what's best for you. But her eyes said something different. Her eyes said this was temporary, that Imani was a phase, that eventually Garrett would come to his senses and choose appropriately. For the first year, the marriage was blissful despite the undercurrent of family disapproval. Garrett and Imani lived in a beautiful brownstone in Lincoln Park. They traveled, they laughed, they built a life together that felt real and right. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to shift. It started with small things. Barbara's comments about Imani's hair. Why doesn't she straighten it? It would look so much more polished for the foundation gala. Or her clothes. That dress is lovely, dear, but perhaps something more conservative for the club luncheon. Or her family. Does your mother have to be quite so loud? People are staring. At first, Garrett defended Imani. But as the comments continued, as the pressure mounted, his defenses became weaker, more half-hearted, until eventually they disappeared altogether. Imani felt herself changing, shrinking, molding herself into shapes that didn't fit, trying to be acceptable to people who had decided she never would be. The country club was where things started to crack visibly. Garrett and Imani attended a spring luncheon, one of those endless society events that Imani had learned to endure. She wore the right dress, the right shoes, had her hair styled in a way Barbara had suggested. She was trying. God, she was trying so hard. Barbara waved them over to a table where a blonde woman sat with perfect posture and a practiced smile. Garrett, darling, you remember Vanessa Carmichael? She's just returned from Paris. Vanessa, you remember my son? Of course. Vanessa stood, air kissing Garrett on both cheeks. How wonderful to see you again. And this must be your wife. The way she said wife made it sound like an unfortunate temporary condition. Imani, this is Vanessa Carmichael. Her family owns the Carmichael Hotel Group. Garrett made the introduction with a politeness that felt distant. Lovely to meet you. Imani shook Vanessa's hand, feeling the other woman's assessment like a physical thing. Likewise, Vanessa turned immediately back to Garrett. I heard about your acquisition of the Midwest Distribution Network. Very impressive. Your father would have been so proud. They fell into conversation about business, about mutual acquaintances, about a world that Imani existed adjacent to but was never quite part of. Barbara joined in seamlessly. It was like watching a choreographed dance that Imani had never learned the steps to. She excused herself to the restroom, needing air, needing space, needing 5 minutes where she didn't have to perform acceptability. In the hallway outside the dining room, she heard Barbara's voice drifting from a nearby conversation nook. She tries so hard, but you can see she doesn't belong. It's not her fault, really. She simply wasn't raised for this. A responding murmur of agreement from another woman. I told Garrett that Vanessa would have been perfect. They have the same background, the same education, the same understanding of what's required, but he was determined to marry that girl, and now look, 3 years and no children. Perhaps it's for the best. Imani stood frozen, her hand on the restroom door, feeling each word land like a blow. That evening, she confronted Garrett in their bedroom. Your mother was talking about me today, about how I don't belong, about how Vanessa would have been better. My mother talks a lot. Garrett loosened his tie, not meeting her eyes. You can't take everything she says personally. She said it's for the best that we don't have children. Imani, we've been trying for 3 years. Garrett's voice carried a frustration that made Imani's stomach drop. Maybe she has a point. Maybe we need to accept that this isn't going to happen. The doctors said there's nothing definitively wrong. These things take time. Or maybe it's not meant to be. Garrett sat on the edge of the bed, his shoulders heavy. My family needs heirs. The company needs succession planning. We can't wait indefinitely. So, what are you saying? Imani felt ice flooding her veins. That I'm failing you? That I'm defective? I'm saying that we might need to consider our options. What options? Garrett didn't answer. He didn't have to. The implication hung between them like poison gas. That night, Imani lay awake beside her sleeping husband and wondered when he'd stopped being her partner and started being her judge. The breaking point came 6 months later. Imani had been feeling off for weeks. Exhausted, emotional, vaguely nauseous. She'd taken 3 pregnancy tests, all negative, and assumed it was stress. The stress of trying to be someone she wasn't. The stress of feeling her marriage crumbling beneath her feet. She came home early from a consulting job to find Garrett in his study, door open, on the phone. I understand, Mother. Yes, I know the foundation gala is important. Yes, I'll make sure Imani wears something appropriate. A pause. I know she's not what you hoped for. I know. Garrett's voice dropped. Sometimes I wonder the same thing. If I'd married Vanessa, we'd probably have 2 children by now and none of these complications. Imani's world tilted sideways. She must have made a sound because Garrett turned, saw her standing in the doorway, and his face went pale. Imani, that's not what it sounded like. Really? Because it sounded like you were agreeing with your mother that marrying me was a mistake. I have to go, Garrett said into the phone, then set it down carefully. We should talk. Yes, we should. Imani walked into the study, her heart pounding. We should talk about the fact that you're questioning our marriage to your mother. We should talk about the fact that you're comparing me to Vanessa Carmichael. We should talk about the fact that you think our inability to have children is somehow my fault. I didn't say it was your fault. You implied it. You've been implying it for months. Every disappointed sigh when I get my period. Every conversation about options. Every time your mother mentions that Vanessa's cousin just had twins and isn't that wonderful. Garrett stood, moving toward his bar cart. This isn't productive. No, what's not productive is me bending myself into shapes, trying to be good. Enough for you and your family when nothing I do will ever be enough. Imani felt 3 years of hurt and frustration bubbling over. I'm not white enough, not rich enough, not connected enough, not fertile enough. What exactly am I enough of, Garrett? That's not fair, isn't it? Tell me honestly. If you could go back 3 years, knowing what you know now, would you still marry me? Garrett poured scotch into a crystal glass. His silence was answer enough. Imani felt something inside her shatter. I want a divorce. Garrett turned slowly. What? You heard me. I want a divorce. I want out of this marriage where I'm constantly found lacking. I want away from your family and their barely disguised racism. I want to stop trying to be acceptable to people who've decided I never will be. Imani, you're being emotional. I'm being honest. For the first time in months, I'm being completely honest. Imani moved toward the door. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow we can call lawyers. Wait. Garrett set down his glass. Just wait. We can work this out. Can we? Can you stand up to your mother and tell her to accept me as I am? Can you stop comparing me to Vanessa? Can you love me even if I never give you children? Garrett opened his mouth. Closed it. The answer was written all over his face. That's what I thought, Imani whispered. I'll pack my things this week. But Garrett, it turned out, had his own breaking point, and Imani had just pushed him past it. The next afternoon, she came home to find him waiting in the living room, papers on the coffee table. I've spoken with my attorney, he said without preamble. I'm prepared to offer a generous settlement. The brownstone is mine, but I'll give you 6 months to find a new place. You'll receive alimony for 3 years and a lump sum payment. Imani stared at the papers, at this man she'd loved more than breathing, and felt herself go numb. Just like that. One conversation and you have divorce papers ready. You wanted a divorce. I'm giving you one. Garrett's voice was cold, clinical. We both know this isn't working. What isn't working is you growing a spine. Imani's voice shook with fury. What isn't working is you being the man I thought you were when you proposed. And what isn't working is you being the wife I needed you to be. There it was. The truth beneath all the polite disappointments. The wife you needed. Not the wife you loved, not your partner, the wife you needed for your image and your legacy. Garrett met her eyes. My family needs certain things from me. The company needs succession. I need a wife who can provide that and who fits seamlessly into our world. You and I both know that's not you. Because I'm black. Imani forced him to say it. Because I'm not from old money. Because my father drives a bus and my mother cleaned houses. Say it, Garrett. Be honest for once. This isn't about race. Everything is about race. Imani grabbed the papers from the table. Every comment about my hair, my family, my background, it's all been about the fact that I'm not the right color for your precious legacy. That's not true. Then why is Vanessa Carmichael suddenly at every family event? Why does your mother constantly bring up women who look like her and never like me? Why have you spent 3 years trying to change everything about me except the one thing your family really objects to? Garrett's jaw tightened. I tried to defend you. You tried for about 6 months. Then you got tired and decided it was easier to agree with them. Imani felt tears burning but refused to let them fall. Well, congratulations. You can marry someone suitable now. Someone who won't embarrass you. Someone who can breed the Sullivan heirs properly. Don't be crude. Don't be honest. Don't call this what it is. You're divorcing me because I'm not what you wanted me to be. Because I'm too black, too poor, too unsuitable for your world. Have the courage to admit it. Fine. Garrett's voice rose for the first time. Fine. You want honesty? Yes, this would be easier with someone who understood my world. Yes, it would be easier with someone my family approved of. Yes, it would be easier with someone who could give me children without 3 years of disappointment and failure. There it was. The truth Imani had been dreading. Get out, she whispered. This is my house. Then I'll get out. Imani headed for the stairs. I'll pack tonight and be gone by morning. You can have your house and your suitable life and your perfect bloodline. Imani, wait. For what? For you to take it back? You meant every word. We both know it. She packed through the night, throwing clothes into suitcases through a blur of tears. Everything she'd brought into this marriage fit into 2 bags. 3 years reduced to luggage. At dawn, she called her mother. Can I come home? Rose Harper asked no questions. Just, I'll have your room ready, baby girl. Imani left the brownstone before Garrett woke up. Left her keys on the kitchen counter. Left the marriage she'd tried so hard to save. She didn't leave a note. What was there to say that hadn't already been said? 3 weeks later, in a lawyer's office, Imani signed divorce papers. Garrett didn't even attend. He sent his attorney to handle what he clearly viewed as an unpleasant but necessary transaction. The attorney pushed papers across the desk. Mr. Sullivan has been very generous with the settlement. You'll be financially comfortable. Blood money, Imani thought but didn't say. Payment for 3 years of trying to be something she wasn't. She signed her name carefully. Imani Harper, not Imani Sullivan. Never Imani Sullivan again. That night, back in her childhood bedroom in her mother's small house on the south side, Imani threw up dinner. She assumed it was stress, grief manifesting physically. She threw up the next morning too, and the morning after that. On the 4th day, Rose handed her a pregnancy test. Just take it, baby. Rule it out. Imani took 3 tests, all positive. She sat on her childhood bathroom floor, staring at those 2 pink lines, and laughed until she cried. The universe had a sick sense of humor. 3 years of trying, 3 years of failure and blame and disappointment, and now, 3 weeks after her ex-husband divorced her for being unable to provide heirs, she was pregnant. The first ultrasound revealed twins. Imani called the clinic 3 times to confirm. They assured her, 2 heartbeats, 2 babies. Twins. She could have called Garrett, could have told him, could have used the pregnancy to demand more in the settlement or to force him back into her life. But every time she thought about picking up the phone, she remembered his words. Unsuitable, embarrassing, failure. She remembered the contempt in his voice when he'd compared her to Vanessa. She remembered 3 years of slowly being erased. And she decided, her children would not grow up begging for acceptance from people who saw them as lesser. Her children would not be raised in a world that valued their pedigree more than their personhood. Her children would know they were enough, exactly as they were. So she never called, never told him. Built a life without him that was harder and lonelier but also freer and more authentic than anything she'd had in her marriage. She enrolled in a part-time MBA program, worked consulting jobs between classes, gave birth to Kennedy and Carter 6 weeks early on a Tuesday afternoon, with only her mother beside her. They were tiny, barely 4 pounds each, and they were perfect. Kennedy came out crying, already fighting. Carter came out quiet, already observing. And Imani loved them with a fierceness that obliterated every other feeling. "I've got you," she whispered to them in the NICU, her hands on their isolettes. "I've got you, and we're going to be fine." And they were. It was hard, harder than anything Imani had ever done. But they were fine. Rose retired early to help with childcare. Imani finished her MBA while nursing twins. She landed a better job, then a better one, then a promotion that came with the title she'd always wanted. Kennedy and Carter grew. They walked early, talked early, asked impossible questions, and created their own elaborate games. They were brilliant and beautiful, and so loved it radiated from them. When they were old enough to ask about their father, Imani told them age-appropriate truth. "Your daddy and I loved each other once, but we wanted different things. He's not part of our lives, but that doesn't mean you're not loved completely." They seemed to accept this. Their world was full, their needs were met. They had Mommy and Grandma Rose and a community that embraced them. They didn't need Garrett Sullivan, except sometimes, late at night, Imani would look at Carter's analytical expression or Kennedy's stubborn chin and see their father. Sometimes she wondered what kind of man he'd become. If he'd married Vanessa, if he had those suitable heirs he'd wanted so badly. Mostly she didn't think about him at all. She was too busy living, until the day her body said enough. The heart attack came on a Tuesday morning in her office. Imani was on a conference call, presenting to a potential client, when her chest suddenly felt like someone had wrapped it in barbed wire and pulled tight. She made it through the presentation on pure determination, ended the call, stood up to get water, and collapsed. Her assistant found her on the floor, called 911. Imani remembers the ambulance, the EMTs, someone saying massive coronary event in a woman her age. She remembers thinking about her children, about who would pick them up from school, about the fact that she'd worked herself to death trying to prove she was worthy. In the emergency room, Dr. Amara Okonkwo ran tests and delivered the diagnosis with gentle firmness. Stress-induced cardiomyopathy. Your heart is literally breaking down from stress. You've been running your body into the ground, and it finally gave out. "But I have to work," Imani protested weakly. "I have children, responsibilities. You won't have anything if you're dead." Amara sat beside the hospital bed. "Imani, you're one of the most driven people I know. But this drive is killing you. When was the last time you took a vacation? Slept 8 hours? Did something just for joy?" Imani couldn't answer. Every moment of the past 5 years had been about achievement, proving herself, building security, making sure her children never needed their father because she was enough all by herself. Except she'd almost left them motherless in her determination to be everything. "You're being admitted," Amara said firmly. "At least a week, maybe more. And then we're having serious conversations about lifestyle changes." Rose brought the twins to visit on day 3. They climbed carefully onto her hospital bed, their small faces worried. "Are you going to die, Mommy?" Kennedy asked with her characteristic directness. "No, baby. But I've been working too hard, and my body needs rest." "The man on TV had a heart attack and he died," Carter observed. "Are you sure you're not dying?" "I'm sure. The doctors are taking good care of me." "You have to rest," Kennedy said seriously. "No working." Dr. Amara said, "I will rest. I promise." And that's when Garrett Sullivan showed up. Later, Imani would piece together how he'd found her. A colleague at her firm who knew someone at Sullivan Global. The announcement about her medical leave. Garrett making calls, pulling strings, finding out she was hospitalized. Finding out about Kennedy and Carter. She'd been in the hospital for 5 days when he appeared. 5 days of rest and medication and beginning to heal. 5 days of peace before her past came crashing back. The twins had just left with Rose when the nurse mentioned that someone had been asking about her. A Mr. Sullivan. Said he was family. Imani's heart rate spiked so fast an alarm went off. That was yesterday. And today, Garrett stood outside her hospital room, blocked by 2 5-year-old children, who loved their mother enough to protect her from the man who'd broken her heart. Now we're back to where we started. Now you understand how we got here. Garrett Sullivan stands in the hallway of St. Augustine Memorial Hospital, having just been given 5 minutes by a woman who has every right to hate him forever. He takes a breath, opens the door, steps into the room where his ex-wife lies connected to machines monitoring the heart that almost gave out. They stare at each other, 5 years of silence between them, and Garrett does the only thing he can think of. He tells the truth. "I've been in therapy," he says without preamble. twice a week for the past 2 months, working through the toxic beliefs I was raised with. The racism and classism and elitism that I didn't even recognize as wrong because it was so normalized in my family. Imani says nothing. I didn't marry Vanessa, Garrett continues. I tried. My mother planned the whole thing. But every time I looked at her, all I could see was you. All I could feel was the hole I'd created in my own life when I pushed you away. Still silence. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I destroyed something precious because I was weak and scared and more concerned with my family's approval than with the woman I loved. Garrett's voice cracks. I know that showing up here after 5 years and asking for anything is the height of arrogance. Then why are you here? Imani finally speaks. Because I saw them, Kennedy and Carter, and I realized that while I've been living in my self-created hell, you've been building something beautiful. You've raised 2 incredible children. You've built a career. You've become everything I always knew you could be. And I've missed all of it because I was too stupid to see what was right in front of me. You can't have them, Imani says flatly. You can't show up after 5 years and claim my children. Our children. And I'm not trying to claim them. I'm asking, begging for the chance to know them. To be part of their lives in whatever capacity you're comfortable with. Why should I trust you? Why should I believe you won't hurt them the way you hurt me? Garrett has no good answer. Only honesty. You shouldn't trust me. I haven't earned it. But I'm asking anyway because the alternative is living the rest of my life knowing I have 2 children out there who don't even know my name. They know your name, Imani says quietly. They know you're their biological father. I've never lied to them about that. I just told them you couldn't be part of our lives. Why? Because you didn't want us. Because you called me unsuitable and chose your family's approval over our marriage. Because I couldn't subject my children to people who would see them as less than because of the color of their skin. And Garrett, finally, truly understands the full scope of what he's done. He didn't just hurt Imani. He created a situation where his own children had to be protected from him, from his family, from the toxicity he'd been raised in and had perpetuated. I'm so sorry, he whispers. Imani, I'm so profoundly sorry for all of it. Sorry doesn't fix 5 years. Sorry doesn't give my children back the father they should have had. Sorry doesn't erase the nights I cried myself to sleep or the times I worked myself sick trying to prove I was worthy. I know. But it's all I have to offer. That and a promise to do better, to be better, to spend however long it takes proving that I've changed. Imani closes her eyes. Her heart monitor beeps steadily. Outside, Chicago moves through its day, indifferent to the drama playing out in this hospital room. When she opens her eyes again, there's something different in her expression. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the possibility of it. I need time, she says again. And if I decide to let you meet them, really meet them, it will be on my terms. Supervised, controlled, with boundaries you will respect or lose access immediately. I agree. Anything you want. And, Garrett? Her voice hardens. If you hurt my children, if you make them feel the way you made me feel, I will make sure you regret it. Am I clear? Crystal clear. The door opens. Rose appears with Kennedy and Carter in tow. Time's up, Rose announces. The babies want to say goodnight to their mama. Garrett moves toward the door, but Kennedy's voice stops him. Are you leaving? He turns. Yes, your mother needs to rest. Will you come back? It's a simple question from a 5-year-old, but it carries the weight of 5 years of absence. Garrett looks at Imani. She gives the smallest nod. If your mother says it's okay, I'd like to. I'd like to get to know you. Both of you. Why? Carter asks with his analytical precision. You didn't want to know us before. Garrett kneels down to their level, his expensive suit creasing on the hospital floor. You're right, and that was the biggest mistake of my entire life. I can't fix the past. But if your mom lets me, I'd like to try to be part of your future. The twins look at each other with that wordless communication that twins have. Some silent negotiation happens. Then Kennedy speaks. Okay, but if you make mommy cry, we won't let you come back. That's fair, Garrett agrees. That's completely fair. He leaves the hospital room with his heart in his throat and the faintest glimmer of hope in his chest. Behind him, Imani holds her children close and wonders if she's making the right choice or the biggest mistake of her life. Either way, the door that's been closed for 5 years has opened just a crack. And what happens next will determine whether that door opens wider or slams shut forever. 1 week later, Imani sits in her mother's living room on the south side, the house she grew up in, the house Garrett visited exactly twice during their entire marriage. She's been discharged from the hospital with strict instructions: no stress, limited work, lifestyle changes, therapy to address the root causes of the stress that nearly killed her. Dr. Amara had been blunt during the discharge meeting. You worked yourself into a heart attack trying to prove something to people who don't matter. Your children need you alive and present, not dead and successful. Choose accordingly. Now Imani holds a phone in her hand, staring at Garrett's number. He'd left his contact information with Rose, asked to be notified when Imani was ready to discuss visitation, promised not to push or pressure, said he'd wait as long as it took. It's been a week. The twins ask about him every day. "Mommy, is our daddy going to come visit?" Kennedy had asked that morning while painting at the kitchen table. "We'll see, baby. Mommy needs to make sure it's safe for you first." Safe from what? Carter wanted to know because nothing got past that analytical mind. Safe from disappointment. Safe from broken promises. Safe from people who see you as less than because of who your grandmother is or where you come from. But Imani couldn't say any of that to a 5-year-old. Rose enters the room with tea. "You going to call him or just stare at that phone until it catches fire?" "I'm thinking." "You've been thinking for a week. Those babies want to know their father, and sitting here protecting them from possibility isn't helping anyone. What if he hurts them?" Imani's voice is small, vulnerable in a way she rarely allows. What if he's consistent for a few months and then gets bored? What if his mother gets in his head again? What if he's really changed? Rose sits beside her daughter. "Baby girl, I hate that man for what he did to you. I will never forget the way you came home broken, pregnant, and terrified. But I've also watched him these past 2 weeks." "You've been watching him?" "I'm a mother. Of course I've been watching him." Rose sips her tea. "He's been at that coffee shop near the twins' school every afternoon, just sitting there reading parenting books and watching kids on the playground. He's not approaching anyone, not being creepy, just observing, learning. That's stalking, Mama. That's a man trying to understand what he missed." Rose sets down her cup. "I'm not saying forgive him. I'm not saying trust him. I'm saying give him a supervised chance to prove himself. And if he fails, we remove him permanently." Imani thinks about Kennedy's hopeful questions, Carter's careful curiosity, the way her children deserve to know where they come from, even if that origin story is complicated. She dials before she can talk herself out of it. Garrett answers on the first ring. Imani. Just hearing her name and his voice does something complicated to her chest. "I'm ready to discuss terms for supervised visitation." "Thank you." His relief is palpable through the phone. "Thank you, Imani. What are the terms?" "Public places only. I'm present at all times. 2-hour maximum for each visit. Once a week, to start. You don't make promises you can't keep. You don't buy their affection with expensive gifts. You treat them with respect and honesty. And the first time you disappoint them or make them feel less than, access is revoked permanently. I agree to all of it. When can we start?" "Saturday. Millennium Park. 10 in the morning. Don't be late." "I won't. Imani, I won't let you down. I won't let them down." "We'll see," she says, and hangs up before her voice can betray the fear and hope warring in her chest. Saturday morning dawns cold and bright. Kennedy insists on wearing her favorite purple dress despite the temperature. Carter wears a button-down shirt that makes him look impossibly grown up. They're both nervous and excited in equal measure. "What if he doesn't like us?" Kennedy asks in the car. "Then he's a fool," Rose says from the driver's seat. "But baby, I don't think that's going to be the problem." "What is the problem?" Carter wants to know. "The problem is going to be him wanting to make up for 5 years in 5 minutes. Rose glances at Imani in the passenger seat. "And your mama making sure he earns every second of your time." They arrive at Millennium Park to find Garrett already there, 15 minutes early, pacing near the bean. He's dressed casually, or what passes for casual in his world. Dark jeans, a sweater. He looks nervous in a way Imani has never seen him. When he sees them approaching, his face transforms. Pure, unguarded emotion. Kennedy, Carter. He kneels down to their level as they approach cautiously. "Thank you for agreeing to spend time with me today. Mommy says we have to give you a chance," Kennedy announces with her typical directness, "but only because we asked. Not because you deserve it. Garrett actually smiles. Your mother is absolutely right. I don't deserve it. But I'm grateful anyway. Carter studies him with analytical precision. You look like me. People say I look like you too. We have the same eyes and the same mouth. Do you see it? I do. Carter nods seriously. Does that mean I'll look like you when I'm old? I hope you'll look like the best version of both your mother and me. Imani watches this exchange, feeling something crack in her chest. Whatever else Garrett was or is, he's good at this. Natural with them, in a way she didn't expect. Can we go see the bean? Kennedy asks, already pulling toward the Cloud Gate sculpture. Of course. Garrett looks at Imani for permission. Is that okay? Stay where I can see you. For the next 2 hours, Imani watches Garrett interact with their children. He doesn't try too hard or perform fatherhood like a role. He asks questions and listens to their answers. He follows their lead when they run to different parts of the park. He sits on the cold ground without complaint when Kennedy wants to, draw in her sketchbook and needs someone to hold the pencil case. When Carter starts asking about business, how companies work, what Garrett does all day, Garrett doesn't simplify or condescend. He explains concepts in ways a 5-year-old can grasp, using examples Carter can relate to. So you help companies solve problems? Carter clarifies. Exactly. People come to me when they're stuck, and I help them find solutions. Like how Mommy helps companies get better at their jobs. Garrett glances at Imani sitting on a nearby bench. Yes, your mother and I actually do similar work. She's very good at it. She's the best, Kennedy says loyally. She can fix anything. I believe that. At one point, Kennedy asks the question Imani has been dreading. Why weren't you there when we were born? Garrett doesn't flinch from the truth. Because I made very bad choices. I hurt your mother, and I didn't know you existed because I'd already hurt her so badly that she couldn't tell me about you. Why did you hurt her? This is where Garrett could lie, could simplify, could protect himself. Instead, he chooses hard truth. Because I was scared. Because I listened to people who told me your mother wasn't good enough, instead of trusting my own heart. Because I was weak. Are you still weak? Carter asks. Sometimes. But I'm trying to be stronger. I'm trying to be the kind of person who deserves to know you. The twins process this with the seriousness children bring to important things. Grandma Rose says you need to prove yourself, Kennedy says. She says words are easy, but actions are what count. Your grandmother is very wise. What do you think I should do to prove myself? Show up, Carter says simply. Keep showing up. I will. Every time I'm allowed. Every chance I get. When the 2 hours are up, Garrett doesn't ask for more time. He thanks the twins for spending their morning with him. He asks if they'd be willing to do it again next week. He shakes their hands solemnly when they agree. As they're leaving, Kennedy suddenly runs back and hugs him. It's quick, impulsive, and over before Garrett can fully react. But Imani sees the way his eyes close, the way his breath catches, the way he looks like he might cry. On the drive home, the twins chatter about everything they learned. Did you know Daddy's company has offices in 12 countries? Carter reports, 12. That's so many. He said I could paint him something and he'd put it in his office, Kennedy adds. Do you think he meant it? I think he did, Imani says quietly. Rose catches her eye in the rearview mirror. Well, he was good with them. Really good. Because he loves them. Anyone can see that. The question is whether he can sustain it. That becomes the pattern for the next 6 weeks. Saturday mornings, 2 hours, public places. Garrett never late, never canceling, never pushing for more than agreed upon. They go to the park, the zoo, the aquarium, the children's museum. Garrett learns that Kennedy is a vegetarian by choice, that Carter is obsessed with space, that both of them have strong opinions about everything. He brings art supplies for Kennedy, but nothing so expensive it feels like bribery. He brings books about planets for Carter, but always asks Imani's permission first. Slowly, carefully, a relationship begins to build. And Imani, watching from her careful distance, begins to wonder if maybe Rose is right. Maybe he has changed. But then, Barbara Sullivan comes to town. Imani gets the call on a Wednesday afternoon. Garrett's voice is tense. My mother is in Chicago. She found out about Kennedy and Carter. She wants to meet them. Absolutely not. Imani, I told her no. I told her she needed to apologize to you first and examine her own prejudices before meeting our children. But she's threatening to make things difficult. Let her try. I'm not subjecting my children to that woman's racism. I know. I agree. I just wanted to warn you that she might show up somewhere. She's staying at the peninsula. She has resources. She could find out where you live or where the twins go to school. Are you threatening me? No. God, no. I'm trying to protect you. Garrett's frustration bleeds through. I've told her she's not welcome. I've told her that if she can't love and respect you and our children, she has no place in any of our lives. But she's my mother, and she's stubborn, and I wanted you to know she's here. 2 days later, Barbara Sullivan shows up at Rose Harper's house. Imani is in the living room helping Carter with a puzzle when the doorbell rings. Rose answers it, and Imani hears the sharp intake of breath. You have a lot of nerve coming to my home. Mrs. Harper, I presume. Barbara's voice is cool, cultured, dripping with the casual superiority. Imani remembers all too well. I'm here to see my grandchildren. Like hell you are. Rose doesn't move from the doorway. You didn't want them or their mother 5 years ago. You don't get to claim them now. Imani appears behind her mother. It's okay, Mama. Let her in. Let's hear what she has to say. Barbara enters the small living room, and Imani watches her take in the modest furniture. The family photos on the walls, the general working-class reality of the space. Barely concealed disdain flickers across her face. Mrs. Sullivan, Imani says coldly. What do you want? Barbara's eyes land on Carter, who's watching this interaction with his characteristic analytical focus. Oh my. He does look like Garrett at that age. Step away from my son. I just want to meet them. They're my grandchildren after all. Biology doesn't make you family. Love and respect make you family. And you've shown neither. I'm willing to establish a relationship. Barbara opens her designer purse. I've spoken with my attorneys about visitation rights for grandparents. Illinois law is quite clear that I have legal standing. Sue me, Imani says flatly. Spend your money on lawyers. I will fight you to my last breath before I let you near my children. You're being unreasonable. I'm being protective. There's a difference. Carter stands up from his puzzle. Are you the grandma who said mean things about Mommy? Barbara's face goes carefully blank. I don't know what you've been told. Daddy said you didn't think Mommy was good enough, that you said mean things about her family and her skin color. Carter's voice is matter-of-fact, but his eyes are sharp. Is that true? I simply had concerns about compatibility, because we're black. Carter is 5, but he already knows the truth when he hears it dancing around the edges. You didn't want Daddy to marry Mommy because she's black and we're black, and you think that's bad. Barbara looks genuinely taken aback. Young man, that's not. It is, though. Kennedy appears from the kitchen where she'd been painting with Rose. Mommy told us about prejudice, about people who judge others by skin color instead of character. She said some people were raised that way and never learned better. Out of the mouths of babes. Barbara's composure cracks slightly. I came here to extend an olive branch. No, you came here to assess whether my children are acceptable enough to claim. Imani moves to stand between Barbara and the twins. You came here to decide if they're Sullivan enough despite their black mother. Well, let me save you the evaluation. They're mine. Fully, completely mine. And you have no claim on them. Garrett is my son. And when he decides to introduce you to his children, if he ever decides that, it will be his choice, not yours. Now please leave my mother's home. You haven't heard the last of this. Probably not, but you've heard the last of me being polite about it. Rose opens the front door. Get out of my house before I forget I'm a Christian woman. After Barbara leaves, Imani gathers the twins close. I'm sorry you had to see that. Is she really our grandma? Kennedy asks. Biologically. But family is about more than biology. It's about love and respect and showing up for people. She hasn't earned the title yet. Will she ever? Carter wants to know. I don't know, baby. That's up to her and your father. That evening, Garrett calls. He's furious in a way Imani has never heard. I am so sorry. She promised me she wouldn't go to your house. I told her explicitly not to contact you or the children. It's handled. No, it's not handled. She had no right. Garrett's voice shakes. I've spent the last 2 hours on the phone with her making it very clear that if she ever disrespects you or our children again, she will lose her relationship with me entirely. That's your choice to make. It's an easy choice. Garrett takes a breath. Imani, I need you to know something. I've cut her off financially. She's no longer on any of my corporate boards. I've removed her as executor of my estate. I've made it legally clear that if something happens to me, everything goes to you and the twins with Rose as trustee. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Because I need you to understand that I'm serious, that I've chosen. It's you and Kennedy and Carter. It's always going to be you and them. My mother can accept that and be part of our lives with respect, or she can be excluded. Her choice. Imani feels something shift in her chest. This is different from 5 years ago when Garrett had chosen his mother's approval over their marriage. This is him drawing a line and meaning it. Thank you, she says quietly, for standing up for them. For all of you, he corrects. For our family. The word family hangs between them, full of possibility and pain. After that, the Saturday visits change texture. Garrett is no longer a stranger trying to earn access. He's Dad. They call him that now, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. Dad, can you help me with this drawing? Kennedy asks. Dad, what do you think about this theory? Carter wants to know, and Garrett, to his credit, shows up for all of it. He learns their favorite foods, their fears, their dreams. He attends Kennedy's dance recital sitting beside Imani in the audience, both of them crying when their daughter takes her bow. He goes to Carter's science fair where his son has built a model solar system and can explain each planet's characteristics with encyclopedic knowledge. Imani finds herself softening despite her intentions to stay guarded. She watches Garrett kneel on park grass ruining expensive pants to look at a bug Carter finds fascinating. She watches him seriously discuss color theory with Kennedy like her artistic opinions matter. She watches him be the father she desperately wanted him to be 5 years ago. And slowly, terrifyingly, she feels old feelings stirring back to life. Now, before we continue with what happens next, I need to know, are you rooting for them? Do you think Imani should give Garrett a real second chance? Or do you think some betrayals are too deep to forgive? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you're invested in this story, hit that subscribe button because the next part is going to surprise you. This is Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips, and we're just getting to the good part. 3 months into regular visitation, Imani agrees to let Garrett take the twins for a short outing without her direct supervision. Just to the Children's Museum. Just for 3 hours. Rose will be nearby as backup. It's terrifying letting them go. Imani stands at the window watching Garrett buckle them into car seats in his vehicle, a sensible SUV he'd purchased specifically for their safety. He'd shown her the crash test ratings, asked her opinion on which model, deferred to her expertise as their mother. They'll be fine, Rose says from behind her. And if they're not, I'll be there in 5 minutes. But they are fine. Better than fine. When they return, they're bubbling with stories. Dad bought us ice cream. Dad let us touch the science exhibits. Dad said Kennedy's drawing was museum quality and Carter's questions were brilliant. Imani listens to their joy and feels the last wall around her heart start to crumble. That evening, after the twins are asleep, she sits with Rose in the kitchen. I think I'm falling for him again. Baby girl, you never stopped falling. You just convinced yourself you had. He hurt me so badly, Mama. I know. And if he hurts you again, I'll help you bury the body. Rose takes her daughter's hand. But that man is not the same person who walked away from you 5 years ago. People can change if they want it badly enough. Question is whether you're brave enough to believe it. What if I'm wrong? What if this is temporary? What if it's not? What if this is real and you miss it because you're too scared to try? Imani doesn't have an answer for that. The shift happens on a random Tuesday. Garrett is supposed to have dinner with the twins at a family-friendly restaurant. Imani isn't planning to attend. This is part of the gradual increase in his time with them. But Carter calls her from Garrett's phone. Mommy, Dad's phone is ringing a lot, and he looks stressed. Can you come? 20 minutes later, Imani arrives at the restaurant to find Garrett at the table with the twins, his phone face down, his jaw tight. Kennedy is showing him her latest drawings. Carter is explaining something about black holes. Garrett is nodding and engaging, but there's tension in his shoulders. Everything okay? Imani asks. Fine. Garrett's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Just some work stuff. Nothing that can't wait. But his phone buzzes again. And again. He ignores it. After dinner, while the twins are in the restaurant play area, Imani confronts him. What's going on? There's a major acquisition opportunity. Time sensitive. The board wants me to fly to New York tonight for negotiations tomorrow. So go. We can reschedule. No. Garrett's voice is firm. Carter's birthday is this weekend. I promised I'd be here for his party. I'm not missing my son's 5th birthday for a business deal. Garrett, if it's important, it's $50 million important. But Imani, I've spent 5 years prioritizing business over people, choosing deals over relationships. I'm not doing that anymore. Carter's birthday matters more than any acquisition. What will the board say? That I've lost my edge, that I'm not committed, that personal life is interfering with professional obligations. Garrett meets her eyes. I don't care. Let them say it. I know what matters now. And Imani, watching this man choose their son over his empire, feels something inside her fully heal. This is the growth she needed to see. This is the proof that change is real. You could do the negotiation via video conference, she suggests. Attend the party, then take the meetings remotely later that afternoon. That would work. Garrett looks surprised. You'd be okay with me splitting my attention like that? You're a father and a CEO. Your children need to see that you can be both without sacrificing them. They work out the logistics together. And Saturday, at Carter's space-themed birthday party in Rose's backyard, Garrett is fully present. He wears the ridiculous astronaut hat Carter picked out. He helps serve rocket ship cake. He listens to Carter's excited explanation of each gift. Then he excuses himself, takes video meetings from Rose's spare bedroom, and closes a $50 million deal while still being available when Carter wants to show him something. The twins don't realize the significance, but Imani and Rose do. This is a man who has fundamentally changed his priorities. After the party, after the twins are in bed, Imani finds Garrett cleaning up the backyard. You didn't have to stay. I wanted to help. Garrett ties off a garbage bag. Besides, we haven't really talked. Just us. In a while. No, we haven't. They work in companionable silence for a few minutes. Then Garrett speaks. Imani, can I ask you something? What? Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? Really forgive me, not just tolerate me for the children's sake? Imani considers this carefully. I think I've already started forgiving you. Watching you with Kennedy and Carter. Seeing the work you're doing. The therapy, the priority shifts, the stand you took against your mother. It's not the same man who divorced me. No, it's not. That man was a coward. I'm trying to be brave now. You are brave. It takes courage to admit you were wrong, to change fundamental beliefs, to risk rejection by showing up anyway. Garrett sets down the trash bag and turns to face her fully. I'm still in love with you. I don't know if I have the right to say that, but it's true. I never stopped loving you. I just stopped being worthy of you for a while. Imani's heart pounds. Garrett, I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I'm not asking for anything except what you're already giving me. Access to our children, the chance to prove myself. But I needed you to know, in case it matters. It matters. Imani steps closer. It matters because I'm falling in love with you again too, with who you've become. And it terrifies me. Why? Because what if you change back? What if the pressure gets too much and you revert to old patterns? What if I open my heart fully and you break it again? Garrett reaches out, stops just short of touching her face. I can't promise I'll be perfect. I'll make mistakes, but I can promise I'll never stop choosing you and our children. I'll never stop doing the work to be worthy of you. And I'll never, ever make you feel less than extraordinary again. They stand in the twilight of Rose's backyard, the space between them charged with possibility. Imani makes a choice. She closes the distance and kisses him. It's careful at first, tentative, testing whether this is real or memory. But then Garrett's arms come around her, and it deepens into something that feels like coming home and starting over all at once. When they break apart, both are crying. I'm scared, Imani whispers. Me too. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the best things are scary. They don't rush into anything. This isn't a fairy tale where one kiss fixes 5 years of damage. But it's a beginning, a real one this time, built on truth and growth and hard-won understanding. Over the next few months, they date. Actual dates, just the two of them while Rose watches the twins. They talk about everything they avoided 5 years ago, race and identity, and what it means to raise black children in a world that will judge them, family dynamics, and the boundaries they need to maintain, career ambitions, and how to support each other instead of competing. They go to couples therapy because Imani insists. If we're doing this, we're doing it right this time. We're building on solid foundation, not just hope and chemistry. Garrett agrees without hesitation. He shows up to therapy, does the work, examines his privilege and his prejudices. He reads the books the therapist recommends. He joins Imani in conversations with the twins about racial identity and pride in their heritage. When Kennedy asks why her skin is brown and some of her friends' skin isn't, Garrett is the one who sits with her and explains melanin and genetics and the beautiful diversity of humanity. When Carter comes home confused because a classmate said something ignorant, Garrett is there helping Imani navigate the conversation about prejudice and resilience. He's not perfect at it. He makes mistakes, says the wrong thing sometimes, but he listens when corrected and learns and tries again. 6 months into their renewed relationship, Garrett asks Imani to marry him. Not the elaborate proposal of 7 years ago with the expensive ring and the public declaration. This time, he asks quietly in her mother's kitchen after a family dinner. The twins are watching a movie in the living room. Rose is putting away dishes, and Garrett takes Imani's hand. I want to do this right. Not like before when I was performing the role of husband instead of being a real partner. He pulls out a ring box. This ring has 3 stones, 1 for each of our children, because they're the center of everything. And I want to build a marriage that honors them and you and the family we're creating together. The ring is beautiful but not ostentatious, meaningful instead of expensive. But Garrett, before you answer, I need you to know the terms. We do this as equals. Your career matters as much as mine. Your mother's input matters as much as my mother's, which is to say only as much as we allow. We raise our children to be proud of every part of their heritage. We go to therapy as long as we need to. And the first time I make you feel less than cherished, you call me on it immediately. Those are good terms. Imani finds herself smiling through tears. But I have some of my own. Name them. We don't have a big society wedding. We don't perform for people who spend years disapproving of us. We marry surrounded by people who actually love us and want us to succeed. Agreed. You continue standing up to your mother and anyone else who disrespects our family. Always. And you never, ever forget that I don't need you to be whole. I chose to build a life without you, and it was good. I'm choosing to build a life with you now because I want to, not because I need to. Garrett's eyes are wet. Those are perfect terms. Do we have a deal? Yes. Imani lets him slide the ring onto her finger. Yes, Garrett Sullivan. I'll marry you. Again. For real this time. Rose, who's been listening shamelessly from the kitchen doorway, starts crying. About time you two figured yourselves out. The twins hear the commotion and come running. What happened? Why is everyone crying? Happy tears, babies. Garrett kneels down to their level. I asked your mom to marry me, and she said yes. What do you think about that? Kennedy and Carter look at each other with that twin telepathy. Then Kennedy speaks. Does that mean you'll live with us? If that's okay with you, can we call you Dad at school instead of just at home? You can call me Dad anywhere you want. Carter, ever practical, has different concerns. Will we have to move? I like our house. We'll figure that out together. Maybe we find a new house that fits all of us. Maybe we stay here. Whatever works for our family. Family. Kennedy tests the word. We're going to be a real family? You've always been a real family, Imani corrects gently. But yes, now we'll be a family all living together. The twins cheer and throw themselves at Garrett and Imani both, and Rose pulls out her phone to capture the moment. This is going on the wall, she announces. Right next to every other important family moment. They get married 3 months later in Rose's backyard. The same backyard where Carter celebrated his birthday. The same space where Imani grew up playing. It's intimate and perfect. Kennedy is the flower girl, but instead of traditional petals, she scatters confetti in ombre colors. Healing and new beginnings, she explains seriously. Carter is the ring bearer and gives a speech he wrote himself about second chances and the statistical probability of successful marriages when both parties engage in therapeutic intervention and personal growth. The guests laugh and cry. Garrett's younger sister attends, having spent the past year working through her own complicity and family prejudice. Barbara is notably absent, having refused to attend until she receives a formal apology from Imani. She's still waiting and will be waiting forever. When it's time for vows, Garrett goes first. Imani Harper, I stand before you a different man than the one who married you 7 years ago. That man didn't deserve you. He was weak and scared and valued all the wrong things. I can't promise I'll never make mistakes, but I promise to love you exactly as you are, to celebrate your strength, your intelligence, your heritage, your family. I promise to be a partner who supports your dreams instead of diminishing them. I promise to raise our children to be proud of every part of who they are. And I promise that if I ever make you feel less than extraordinary, you have permission to remind me that I married up and I better act like it. Laughter ripples through the gathered friends and family. Imani's turn. Garrett Sullivan. 5 years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought your rejection meant I was broken. Instead, it gave me the chance to build myself into someone whole and strong and successful. I don't need you to complete me. I'm already complete. But I choose you anyway. I choose to believe in growth and change and the possibility of real love. I promise to trust you with my healed heart, to build a life with you as equals, as partners, as two people who choose each other every single day. I promise to let our children see that love isn't about perfection. It's about growth, forgiveness, and the courage to try again even when you're scared. They exchange rings. Kennedy's design is engraved inside each band. 3 flowers intertwined. Kennedy, Carter, and the love that brought their family back together. You may kiss your bride, the officiant announces. And they do, to cheers and applause and the sound of their children's delighted laughter. At the reception, Rose gives a toast. I'll be honest, when Garrett walked back into my daughter's life 6 months ago, I wanted to throw him out on his behind. But I've watched this man do the work. Real work, not just words and gestures. I've watched him examine his prejudices, stand up to his family, prioritize my grandchildren, and love my daughter the way she deserves. That's not easy. That's not common. So here's to second chances, earned through action. And here's to family, built through choice and love. Later, Imani and Garrett dance to a new song, not the one from their first wedding. This is fresh, representing who they are now instead of who they were. Happy? Garrett asks, holding her close. Terrified and happy in equal measure. Good. That means it's real. The twins run up, wanting to dance too, and suddenly it's all 4 of them swaying together under string lights in Rose's backyard. This is family. This is love, hard-won and precious because of it. Over the next year, they blend their lives carefully. They buy a house in a good neighborhood with excellent schools, large enough for everyone but not ostentatious. They establish routines, family dinners, homework help, weekend adventures, date nights for just Imani and Garrett, individual time with each twin. It's not always perfect. They argue about discipline strategies, about how much privilege to expose the twins to, about managing Garrett's demanding career alongside Imani's. But they argue productively, in therapy, with respect and the goal of resolution instead of winning. Garrett starts a foundation, the Kennedy and Carter Sullivan Foundation for Educational Excellence. It provides scholarships, mentoring, and resources for underprivileged children on the South Side, the same community Imani came from, the same community his family once looked down on. He hires diverse leadership, listens to community voices, puts his money and influence toward dismantling the very systems that almost destroyed his family. Imani watches him present at a foundation event, introducing Kennedy and Carter, and speaking honestly about his own journey from prejudice to understanding. She sees people's surprise, their skepticism, their gradual acceptance as they see his sustained commitment. This is what change looks like. Not perfect, but persistent. One evening, 2 years after their second wedding, the family sits around the dinner table. Kennedy is telling a story about art class. Carter is interjecting with logical corrections. Rose is visiting and adding commentary. Garrett is serving food and asking questions. Imani is watching all of it with a full heart. Her phone buzzes. A message from Dr. Amara. Just checking in. How's your heart? Imani looks around the table. At her mother who sacrificed so much to help her survive and thrive. At her children who taught her about fierce love and protection. At her husband who proved that people really can change if they want it badly enough. She types back. My heart is perfect. Completely healed. Better than before. And it's true. Not just physically, though her stress levels are manageable now and her health is good. But emotionally, spiritually, the heart that broke 5 years ago has been rebuilt into something stronger. That night, after the twins are asleep and Garrett is working in his home office, Imani sits with her journal. She's been keeping one since the divorce, recording her journey, her growth, her healing. She writes, 5 years ago, Garrett Sullivan called me unsuitable and threw me away. I thought my life was ending. Instead, it was beginning. I learned I was strong enough to raise children alone, smart enough to build a career, brave enough to survive heartbreak and come out better on the other side. When Garrett came back, I didn't need him anymore. But I chose him anyway, not because he completed me, but because he'd done the work to become someone worthy of choosing. Our story isn't a fairy tale. It's real life, messy and complicated and beautiful because of what it cost us both. I don't know if we'll make it forever, but I know we're making it today. And tomorrow, I'll choose him again. And the day after that, one day at a time, building something real. She closes the journal and goes to find her husband. He's reviewing foundation proposals, making notes, his reading glasses sliding down his nose in a way that makes her smile. "Come to bed," she says from the doorway. "In a minute. I'm almost done with this proposal. It's for a program that provides free tutoring to kids whose parents work multiple jobs. That sounds amazing. But it can wait until morning. Come to bed." Garrett looks up, sees something in her expression, immediately closes his laptop and stands. "Everything okay?" "Everything is perfect. I just want to be with you." They go to bed, talk about nothing important and everything that matters, fall asleep, tangled together. And when Imani dreams, it's not of the past or the pain. It's of the future, of Kennedy's art shows and Carter's science achievements, of growing old beside someone who sees her and loves her and chooses her every single day. This is the happy ending that almost didn't happen, the second chance that had to be earned, the love that died and was resurrected into something more beautiful than the original. Now, let me tell you what I hope you take from this story. First, your worth is not determined by someone else's inability to see it. When Garrett called Imani unsuitable, that was about his blindness, not her value. She knew this, eventually. I hope you know it too. Second, walking away from people who diminish you is not giving up. It's self-respect. Imani left a marriage that was killing her spirit. That wasn't weakness. That was strength. Third, you can build an extraordinary life from broken pieces. Imani took her shattered heart and built a career, raised children, became the woman she needed to be. Your past doesn't define your future unless you let it. Fourth, second chances must be earned, not freely given. Garrett didn't show up with apologies and expect forgiveness. He did years of work, therapy, changed priorities, consistent action. That's what real change looks like. Fifth, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Imani forgave Garrett, but she didn't erase the past. She used it as information, set boundaries, demanded proof. That's healthy forgiveness. Sixth, children are watching everything. Kennedy and Carter learned about protection and boundaries from their mother. They learned about growth and accountability from their father. What are the children in your life learning from watching you? Seventh, love alone isn't enough. Garrett loved Imani during their first marriage, but he loved other things more. The second time, love was paired with respect, action, and sacrifice. That's what makes it sustainable. Eighth, privilege must be examined and actively dismantled. Garrett had to confront his own racism and classism, had to recognize how his family's prejudice had poisoned his thinking, had to do the uncomfortable work of change. If you hold privilege, are you doing that work? Ninth, you teach people how to treat you. Imani set clear expectations. Garrett met them or lost access. Boundaries aren't mean. They're necessary. And finally, some broken things can be rebuilt into something stronger than the original, but only if both people are willing to do the work. Only if the foundation is solid. Only if the commitment is real. So what about you? Are you holding onto something broken that needs to be released? Are you refusing to forgive someone who's genuinely earned it? Are you settling for less than you deserve because you don't believe better exists? Imani Harper could have stayed bitter, could have kept Garrett from his children out of revenge, could have refused to believe people can change. Instead, she protected herself and her children while leaving the door open for earned redemption. That takes wisdom. Garrett Sullivan could have given up when faced with Imani's boundaries, could have sued for custody or thrown money at the problem. Instead, he did the hard internal work of becoming someone worthy. That takes humility. Together, they built something real. Not perfect, but honest. Not easy, but worth it. That's available to you too. Real love. Honest partnership. Second chances that work because they're built on solid ground. But it requires courage. The courage to leave what's broken. The courage to heal yourself. the courage to do the work of change, the courage to risk your heart again. Are you that brave? I think you are. I think you're watching this story because somewhere in your heart, you believe in redemption and growth and the possibility that broken things can be made beautiful again. Hold on to that belief, but pair it with wisdom, with boundaries, with self-respect. Love yourself enough to leave what diminishes you. Love yourself enough to do the work of healing. Love yourself enough to demand that second chances be earned through action, not just promised through words. You are worthy. You are enough. You always have been. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve access to your heart. But if someone does the work, if they prove through consistent action over time that they've changed, maybe, just maybe, they deserve consideration. Not immediate trust, not blind faith, but consideration. The rest is up to you. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for believing in love and redemption and the messy, beautiful reality of real relationships. If this story touched your heart, show some love with a like. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they're worthy. And subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips for more stories about love, loss, growth, and second chances. Remember, your story isn't over. The best chapters might still be unwritten. And sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that have to die and be reborn to become what they were always meant to be. Until next time, this is Dr. Phillips reminding you that you are seen, you are valued, and you are loved exactly as you are. Don't ever forget it.